Good morning and aloha. My sincere congratulations to the recent graduates, and I want to give special thanks to Reverend Jico and to my wife, Jerry, who's stuck with me through thick and thin for 35 plus years. And I hope to get to know everybody in the Sangha as time goes on. I have to warn you that actually I'm not sure whether I should be making this speech at all. Because when I was sitting in the place of the graduates, I was a fifth year high school student carrying a C average, and I was not very ambitious. And I went to, my mother asked me, why is it that you can't come to some plans about the future? And she says, what are your plans anyway? And I said, well, you know, the male halls in the last 200 years have fought in every American war, and I plan on making the military a career. So she says, well, do you have a backup plan? And I said, well, yeah, plan B is, I was working as a dishwasher at Uncle John's Pancake House in Las Vegas at the time, where the family lived in that area. And I said, my backup plan is I could always work my way up to assistant cook, you know. My mother is a strong and wise person and basically looked at me seriously, laughed, and then gave me some words of wisdom that kind of burnt my ears. I used to have ears like Dumbo, and you know, she burnt my ears to the point where, let me just say that it significantly expanded my options for the future. So, three great people in my life, and there's more, and which is the topic of the presentation today. And this has to do with life lessons for everybody, in particular, saving the world. Okay, guideline number one. If you want to change the world, you start off by making your bed. And this is actually a quote with Rear Admiral William McRaven, when the completion of SEAL training, when he was talking about the idea of doing little things right before you go off and think you're going to accomplish big things. And here in this particular, in Buddhism, we start by bending down and straightening out our slippers, you know, before we enter the temple, before we enter the front door of any place. We do routine but important things correctly. Starting off in the morning, you can do, as soon as you wake up, you can do some needed chores, or do a little zazen, or something to start off with a feeling of accomplishment and a concrete base for the rest of the things to happen. Guideline number two, be motivated to do well, avoid impulsive behavior, and take the long view. Now, with the recent graduates, but everybody here, you're going to need your inner resources, especially in the most difficult times. You've got to be motivated, and you should be cool, calm, and collected, and not make impulsive types of mistakes. Now, just think about the mistakes that you may have made in your life through lost a relationship or quit a job or something. Momentarily, you gave in to a feeling or a thought that maybe in retrospect you shouldn't have done that. So the idea is anytime something comes up, be motivated, but take a few deep breaths, think about what needs to be done, and play it cool in the motor pool, as we used to say. Remember, your feelings about something, it's kind of Manini. If you take the long view, you'll know what needs to be done. And along with motivation, never forget the power of hope. Hope is so important. And it's amazing. You look in history, small groups of like-minded people have changed the world through their hope. One person who models hope, whether they succeed or not, is amazing. That kind of thing is amazing. So be motivated, avoid impulsive behavior, and take the long view. I have a special warning for the recent graduates, and that is that comes in the next guideline, is that things will go wrong in your life, except that bad things will happen. No matter how much you are motivated or you prepare, things are going to go wrong. You're maybe going to lose a position or do very poorly on an exam or say the wrong thing. People get sick, accidents, terrible things are happening in the world now, and then we're all going to pass. Everybody experiences suffering, dukkha, to some extent, except that it's going to happen. And there are ways around that are quite clear. One warning along this line, especially to the new graduates, but also people starting new jobs and so forth, is the idea of the myth. It's called a myth of invulnerability. And it's those people who have not had a lot of stress or trauma in their lives, they think that nothing could happen to them. But what I see over and over again, especially with people going off to the mainland and then coming home after a while because they get homesick or something like that, is they don't recognize that knowing that you are going to get homesick, you are going to feel that other circumstances can be better. It's needed to go ahead and to accept that it's going to happen and then to do the right thing. Especially if you have a worthy goal, you'll be very surprised how quickly time will pass and you'll have a foundation for the rest of your life. Be aware of your negativity bias. This is for everybody, which is part of the bad things happening. Neuropsychology, there's a lot of evidence now that everybody is born with a negativity bias and they develop one. This is an evolution kind of a thing, that where we pay attention to those things that may be threatening or harm us to some degree as a first stance. So the positive things may not at first be nearly as important or impactful as the negative things. But we all have this negativity bias, and then what we learn in terms of following the Noble Eightfold Path, in terms of your contemplative practice and living wisely and compassionately, is to go ahead and switch to a positivity bias. At first you can see the parts of the neuroimaging, you can see the negative things light up the brain. They light up the sites and systems. And when there's a positivity bias, you can actually see the same thing happening. It's really amazing. So this is science. This is replicated, cross-validated studies. Okay, understand that the principle of projection is important to apply to others in order to be aware of how they're actually thinking. Now, projection is what people, they impute their feelings, their thoughts, their dreams, their hopes, their fears into almost every situation. And you ought to recognize that before you start responding. If you understand the principle of projection, then you can, that's one of the foundations, building blocks towards living wisely. Let me give you an example. In my senior year in high school, the second senior year, I took my first psychology course, and they gave us, as part of the class demonstration, they gave us a Rorschach test, you ink blot you look at, and it's a projective test because you say what it looks like or what it reminds you of, and then there's a system on how to interpret this whole thing. Well, when I had a card, I saw a design that looked just like, I said, this is a noble and loyal dog that I see down here. That's what it reminds me of. That's what it is. And I was shocked to discover that was just a figment of my imagination, that I was projecting, my love of dogs onto, the projective device. So the moral of the story is, in that particular situation, I found out that dogs were in fact noble and loyal. But later on, that was due to the ability to predict and to know dogs and know how that they would respond. But be aware of the principle of projection. Guideline number 6. If you want to meet your existential goals, find people to help. The age of the lone wolf is over. And the time to people, like-minded people, to get together, to set out their goals and to live harmoniously and to live wisely towards those goals is the thing to do. You need friends, you need colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, an organization of like-minded people in order to do what needs to be done. You also need a very close person, a mentor, a teacher, and all of you have this opportunity right at Daifukuji. Guideline number 7, recognize that all things are impermanent. Things pass away. And this includes your failures, which may turn out actually to be something that you feel a little bit of relief over. And it may actually be a boon to your future development. And I want to particularly talk about, in this consumer-based society, the accumulation of possessions, material kinds of things. But it also applies to achievements and things that are really not necessary. The moral here is don't let your possessions possess you. You don't want to do that. Guideline number 8, don't be afraid of the sharks and don't back down. There are lots of sharks in the world. And the sharks, this is also from SEAL training, but it applies to the world as a whole. There's shark wannabes. You can tell them by the tools of the trade, and that is intimidation, that is disparagement, that is putting you down, that is putting people into dependent roles where they don't think much of themselves, and other kinds of exploitive means. In my field, neuropsychology and clinical psychology, there's really not much you can do about this. But what you can recognize is that you can be alert to the people that are sharks and are out to do you no good, and then you can do appropriately what needs to be done. Now that doesn't mean you have to engage in a confrontation or a fight. You have to pick your time and place, do what needs to be done over the long run. Okay, number 9 is never give up. Never give up and develop self-control. This applies to going away from college, taking a job. It applies to being in the military and any kind of endeavor that takes persistence, where you cannot give up, or if you do give up on a worthy goal, then it'll be to your detriment later on in life. This is reminiscent of the Go for Broke motto. The very heroic 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442 Regimental Combat Team in World War II. Now, their valor, their courage, and their persistence, and their never say die attitude will be in the hearts, the minds, the books, the history of as long as there is the United States of America and the world too. It's there and it won't go away. So show self-control, do what needs to be done, and there are ways to do this when you're away. When you're feeling really bad, you can break down tedious tasks into manageable units that you reward yourself for, and then go back and then complete the task quickly. Again, you'll be very surprised if you stick with your worthy goal, how quickly time passes. Guideline number 10 is to be kind and to show positive regard for others. In the military training, in SEAL training, Admiral McRaven said this: if you wish to change the world, measure a person by the size of the heart, not by the size of their flippers. And warmth and kindness towards others always preempts, always trumps reason, coolness in affecting relationships and bonding with other people and trying to get something done. And it's, does this mean, one question is, does this mean that you should be kind to people and tell lies? There are a number of surveys that quite clearly show, I hope this is not a shock to people, that the average person lies about 6 to 8 times a day. And this is mostly about relationships, but it's also about the idea that you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, white lies kind of thing. So the question comes up, is it okay to show or to tell white lies to somebody that you may need to take into account where they're at in life and their circumstances? And the answer is yes. It's okay. It's okay. You can quote me on this. It's okay to tell white lies in the service of kindness. In the service of kindness. Kindness preempts fudging the truth a little bit. And in fact, it's recommended. And it starts a cycle of gratitude and kindness that goes both ways that will sustain you for the rest of your life. Number 11, show gratitude, appreciation, and generosity at every opportunity. This basically creates, again, a positive feedback loop in the brain. You can see the areas of gratitude and happiness and positivity light up all over the place. So within the brain, there are positive loops that are created, and then also between people. And then you have a positivity of more than one person. And I just want to say, I have a last homework assignment for the graduates, and that is, would you please write a gratitude letter to your parents or the person that sustained you, that was responsible for showing all the support to the point where you're graduating today and going off on your quest. That would be good. And then I have a second request that maybe there was some relationship you had in high school that with somebody or elementary, and you folks kind of split ways, due to maybe a misunderstanding or something like that. And while you're still in the area, write a gratitude letter towards them, or call them up, or let's go get some cow, or this may be a chance to close the loop, and it's more for your benefit than the other person. The other person may be shocked and surprised, pleasantly surprised. But I'd recommend those two things. The last thing I want to say is be comfortable with silence and being alone. Silence restores the brain. Silence improves neural functioning. Silence improves spirituality and relationships. And it's really important for each and every one of you to be comfortable with yourself every day for a period of time. Okay, and remember what Herman Melville said, all profound things and emotions of things are preceded and attended by silence. Thank you, and with that, I will take my silence.